Senator Clinton, a question for you. We talked about the military applications from the Constitution, and this is a question that involves the war in Iraq. It comes from Mandy Garber of Pittsburgh. Take a look.
So the real question is, I mean, do the candidates have a real plan to get us out of Iraq, or is it just real campaign propaganda? And, you know, it's really unclear. They keep saying we want to bring the troops back, but considering what's happening on the ground, how is that going to happen?
Let me just add a little bit to that question, because your communications director in your campaign, Howard Wolfson, on a conference call recently was asked, is Senator Clinton going to stick to her announced plan of bringing 1 or 2 brigades out of Iraq every month, whatever the realities on the ground? And Wolfson said, I'm giving you a one-word answer so we can be clear about it. The answer is yes. So if the military commanders in Iraq came to you on day 1 and said, this kind of withdrawal would destabilize Iraq, it would set back all of the gains that we have made, no matter what, you're going to order those troops to come home?
Yes, I am, Charlie, and here's why. You know, thankfully, we have a system in our country of civilian control of the military. And our professional military are the best in the world. They give their best advice, and then they execute the policies of the president. I have watched this president as he has continued to change the rationale and move the goalposts when it comes to Iraq. And I am convinced that it is in America's best interest, it is in the best interest of our military, and I even believe it is in the best interest of Iraq, that upon taking office, I will ask the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and my security advisors to immediately put together for me a plan so that I can begin to withdraw within 60 days. I will make it very clear that we will do so in a responsible and careful manner, because obviously withdrawing troops and equipment is dangerous. I will also make it clear to the Iraqis that they no longer have a blank check from the President of the United States, because I believe that it will be only through our commitment to withdrawal that the Iraqis will begin to do what they have failed to do for all of these years. I will also begin an intensive diplomatic effort, both within the region and internationally, to begin to try to get other countries to understand the stakes that we all face when it comes to the future of Iraq. But I have been convinced and very clear that I will begin to withdraw troops within 60 days. And we've had other instances in our history where some military commanders have been very publicly opposed to what a president was proposing to do. But I think it's important that this decision be made, and I intend to make it.
But Senator Clinton, aren't you saying, I mean, General Petraeus was in Washington, you both were there when he testified, saying that the gains in Iraq are fragile and are reversible. Are you essentially saying, I know better than the military commanders here?
No, what I'm saying, Charlie, is that no one can predict what will happen. There are many different scenarios, but one thing I am sure of is that our staying in Iraq, our continuing to lose our men and women in uniform, having many injured, the Iraqi casualties that we are seeing as well, there is no way for us to maintain a strong position in the world. It's not only about Iraq, it is about ending the war in Iraq so that we can begin paying attention to all of the other problems we have. There isn't any doubt that Afghanistan has been neglected. It has not gotten the resources that it needs. We hear that from our military commanders responsible for that region of the world. And there are other problems that we have failed to address. So the bottom line for me is we don't know what will happen as we withdraw. We do know what will happen if we stay mired in Iraq. The Iraqi government will not accept responsibility for its own future. Our military will continue to be stretched thin, and our soldiers will be on their second, third, even their fourth deployment. And we will not be able to reassert our leadership and our moral authority in the world. And I think those are the kind of broad issues that a president has to take into account.
And Senator Obama, your campaign manager, David Plouffe, said when he is, this is talking about you, when he is elected president, we will be out of Iraq in 16 months at the most. There should be no confusion about that. So you'd give the same rock-hard pledge that no matter what the military commander said, you would give the order, bring them home?
Because the commander-in-chief sets the mission, Charlie. That's not the role of the generals. And one of the things that's been interesting about the president's approach lately has been to say, well, I'm just taking cues from General Petraeus. Well, the president sets the mission. The general and our troops carry out that mission. And unfortunately, we have had a bad mission set by our civilian leadership, which our military has performed brilliantly. But it is time for us to set a strategy that is going to make the American people safer. Now, I will always listen to our commanders on the ground with respect to tactics. Once I've given them a new mission, that we are going to proceed deliberately in an orderly fashion out of Iraq. And we are going to have our combat troops out. We will not have permanent bases there. Once I have provided that mission, if they come to me and want to adjust tactics, then I will certainly take their recommendations into consideration, but ultimately the buck stops with me as the commander-in-chief. And what I have to look at is not just the situation in Iraq, but the fact that we continue to see al-Qaeda getting stronger in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. We continue to see anti-American sentiment fanned all across the Middle East. We are overstretched in a way. We do not have a strategic reserve at this point. If there was another crisis that was taking place, we would not have a brigade that we could send to deal with that crisis that isn't already scheduled to be deployed in Iraq. That is not sustainable. That's not smart national security policy, and it's going to change when I'm president.
Senator Obama, let's stay in the region. Iran continues to pursue a nuclear option. Those weapons, if they got them, would probably pose the greatest threat to Israel. During the Cold War, it was the United States policy to extend deterrence to our NATO allies. An attack on Great Britain would be treated as if it were an attack on the United States. Should it be U.S. policy now to treat an Iranian attack on Israel as if it were an attack against the United States?
Well, our first step should be to keep nuclear weapons out of the hands of the Iranians. And that has to be one of our top priorities, and I will make it one of our top priorities when I'm President of the United States. I have said I will do whatever is required to prevent the Iranians from obtaining nuclear weapons. I believe that that includes direct talks with the Iranians, where we are laying out very clearly for them, here are the issues that we find unacceptable. Not only development of nuclear weapons, but also funding terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, as well as their anti-Israel rhetoric and threats towards Israel. I believe that we can offer them carrots and sticks, but we've got to directly engage and make absolutely clear to them what our posture is. Now, my belief is that they should also know that I will take no options off the table when it comes to preventing them from using nuclear weapons or obtaining nuclear weapons, and that would include any threats directed at Israel or any of our allies in the region.
So you would extend our deterrent to Israel?
As I said before, I think it is very important that Iran understands that an attack on Israel is an attack on our strongest ally in the region, one that one whose security we consider paramount, and that would be an act of aggression that I would consider an attack that is unacceptable, and the United States would take appropriate action.